February 19th of 1861 while on his way to Washington, D.C. for his inauguration. Before we begin today's program, I just want to take a minute to acknowledge our distinguished guests. And I know we did some of this before, but just to my right over here, we have the Honorable Sandra Galiff, New York State Assemblywoman. We have the Honorable John Testa, County Legislator and Minority Leader, and former Mayor of Peekskill and President of the Lincoln Depot Museum. We also have the Honorable Teresa Knickerbocker, Mayor Buchanan. Where's Teresa? Okay, we also have the Honorable Kathy Pisani, former councilwoman for Peekskill and former deputy mayor. And I just see our Honorable Mayor, Frank Catalina. Come on up, Frank. Okay. So anyway, they're going to get a chance to speak in a little bit. We're going to begin our program today with a reenactment of President-elect Lincoln's visit to Peekskill and his address to its citizens. So, Congressman William Nelson, will you please introduce President-elect Lincoln?
In common with your fellow citizens, generally, we appreciate the difficulties which probably will attend you in the discharge of the important duties about to devolve upon you as Chief Magistrate of this nation. We have, however, full confidence in the soundness of your head and the purity of your heart, and that with the aid of that divine providence which you have invoked, you will be equal to every emergency which may arise in this critical condition of the nation. You have our hopes and prayers that your administration will prove as prosperous and happy to our beloved country and as honorable to yourself as the difficulties and challenges which now threaten you are great. Associated, as we have been, in the councils of the nation, I need not assure you of my pleasure in thus meeting you again and bearing to you this message from my neighbors and friends.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of Peekskill, I have but a moment to stand with you and to thank you for this cordial reception tendered by your authorities. In regard to the difficulties that lie before me and to which your president has alluded, let me say that if I shall only be as generously and unanimously sustained as this meeting would seem to indicate I shall be, in my management of public affairs I shall not fail. But without that sustaining arm, I'm quite sure that the difficulties which lie before me would not only be too great for my humble self, but too great for any individual man. I thank you then, as I have thanked the assembled thousands upon various occasions as I have passed along my route for such demonstrations which, if they mean anything, means that I shall be supported not only by the party who gave me election, but by the free, intelligent, and earnest support of all of the parties in the country.
Now I'd like to give our honored guests the opportunity to say a few words. But before I do that, I want to start with John Testa. As I said, former mayor of Peekskill, current Westchester County legislator, and minority leader, as well as the depot president, most importantly. Before I turn the mic over to John, however, I just want to say that John has been an integral part in keeping the Lincoln legacy alive in Peekskill, particularly through his efforts to build and maintain this lovely museum. Without John's tireless efforts and leadership, quite frankly, we wouldn't be attending here today. So I want to personally say thank you for your years of dedication and for letting the Lincoln Society join you here today. I also want to take the opportunity to let all of you know that John will be honored as the Lincoln Society's Champion of History this year at our annual dinner dance on April 8th at Colonial Terrace. We are very pleased to be able to recognize John, something that is so very long overdue. We will also be honoring Frances Sereno Catalina, who also just happens to be Mayor Catalina's mom, for her longtime service to the community. We're very excited to also share that this year's dinner dance will also be a major fundraiser for the restoration of the Lincoln Excedra, a memorial which was built in 1925 by the Lincoln Society as a way to commemorate Lincoln's historic visit to Peekskill. So please join us on April 8th and help us in our efforts to restore the Excedra to its former grandeur. I'm going to let John say a few words, and the other.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. This has to be the nicest day we've ever had for this event. Usually we're freezing as we stand here. Now I'm starting to get warm. But I want to thank Barbara and the Lincoln Society for the honor of naming me as the person that they're going to single out this year's dinner. But it's been a very much a group effort and a team effort to get where we are today with the museum. And the Lincoln Society and Peekskill has been really the stalwarts of the Lincoln legacy for over 100 years here in the city of Peekskill. So I'm just happy to do my little part to be a part of that and to enhance it with the museum. And without certain people such as Governor Pataki at the time, our Assemblywoman Galiff, who was very supportive of the funding that we got for this museum and has recognized the importance of it. Without them and the members of the City Council and members of the Lincoln Society and the board members who I'm going to introduce in a minute from the Lincoln Depot Museum, this wouldn't have happened. So I want to thank everyone involved. And just to give you an introduction to the museum board members who are here today, we have Brian Kaplan, who's here, Jeff Sweet, Paul Martin, who led the parade, and Kathy Pisani. We have Dr. Hales, who couldn't make it today, Pat Garvey, General Pat Garvey couldn't make it today. So we're just happy to be a part of Peekskill, to keep the history of Peekskill, which is so important to all of us, alive. And also I want to thank the Lincoln Society and Barbara this year as president to take upon themselves to restore the Lincoln Excedra, which was really the start of everything for us here in Peekskill when it came to Lincoln. Before this museum could be, and this building could be accessed for the public, that was the way to see what was going on in Lincoln and Peekskill. That's where the cannons were fired from when Lincoln was here. We'll get into all that, I'm sure, at the dinner. But this is a very significant part of the city's history, and it has brought people together, as we see year after year. So thank you to the Lincoln Society. Thank you, Barbara. Come inside, and you have a great speaker after this, and enjoy the museum. Thank you.
I'm Sandy Galiff, Assemblywoman, and I thought this year, I love being here. I think I've been here every year that you've probably done it. Lincoln, you've changed a little bit. You've gotten younger. But it's always so very special to be at this event. But this year I decided to look at some of the words that Abraham Lincoln had spoken and related to today. So, let us at all times remember that all American citizens are brothers of a common country and should dwell together in the bonds of fraternal feeling. In November of 1860, President Abraham Lincoln said these words to a crowd in Springfield, Illinois. Let it pass. Okay. There weren't that many trains back then. I look around at what is happening in the federal government and draw some striking parallels between the nation in 1860 and the nation of 2017. We are divided, pushed to a breaking point, and many do not see a way back to unity, as the North and the South were during the Civil War, the same issues. Except for a variety of reasons, it is now more of a divide between neighbors, friends, and families than it is a division with a clearer border. More than ever, it is important to remember Lincoln's words that we are, as Americans, undeniably bound together as children of the same nation. As anyone who spent time around children will tell you, siblings fight. They will wail upon each other, literally and physically, but at the end of the day, they're stuck with each other and need to find their way to commonality. By adulthood, most siblings learn to talk it out. In many ways, I believe that we need to grow from our past and remember our responsibility to form this more perfect union. May that happen. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. As mayor, it's certainly one of my great honors to be here to support the Lincoln Society for the work they do year after year after year. And I want you to know I had nothing to do with my mother being honored by the Lincoln Society, although I thank you very much because it gets me a night out. I want to echo what Assemblywoman Gallup said about the crazy times we live in. And this morning, as I heard the speech up above and down here, it's not really like that. You know, you think of pressures on presidents. Lincoln had to order Americans to shoot on other Americans to stop a war between the states. And I think if he could do that and the nation can survive, we can survive whatever differences we have today. And along those lines, we ask God to come down and bring some peace upon us so that men of goodwill can get through these difficult times. Because after all, they're not that difficult after all. Thank you very much.
Okay, I promise you that we will be moving inside shortly to enjoy some refreshments and take a look around before we have the pleasure of hearing Professor Charles Stroger's presentation. We've also prepared a video to play in tribute posthumously to Michael Greist, who had played the role of President Lincoln for many, many years. May his soul rest in peace, and know that we are remembering him today here as well. Just before we move inside, I just have a few thank yous. Tony Oliverio for once again playing the role of Congressman Nelson. Michael Macedonia for playing the role of President-elect Nixon. Paul Martin, thank you again for bringing the Boy Scouts from Troop 164 in Yorktown and some of your reenactors. Kathy Pisani, who is donating the cookies but also gave our invitation. And I forgot, Mike brought the hot chocolate. And of course, thank you to our distinguished guests and mostly to all of you for coming here today. Thank you.